50 points for productivity, 50 points for connectivity. Maybe that's wrong then. Maybe that's wrong. I'm not suggesting to you these are the weights or measures. Let's just make this really simple. And you go, okay, of the 50 for productivity, we go, I would say, look, in fairness, we'll make it 120, because let's keep the math simple. Yeah? We'll give 20 for landside, 20 for stowage, 20 for the gate. So this is all we're trying to do. All we're trying to do is we're trying to determine what KPIs we need to measure. Yeah? How many points each KPI is worth, and how they aggregate up to 100. So when people come to this, now the only reason I would do this if I was a terminal operator, the only reason I would do it for no other reason. I wouldn't do it about productivity. You're right, sure you guys, productivity is the name of the game. You're industrial engineers. Your job is to get the best out of the resources, and that's how you get money to the bottom line. That's like, why you should do it is, you should do it because when you get this, the customer, the beneficial cargo owner, right? So, in all fairness, if we get out of here in 08, 09, 10, 11, 12, 13, so if we get out of here by 08 into the marketplace with this, if you look at the case study of the business plan for the proliferation of the standard, I'm sure it goes like that. Yeah, 20 terminals, whatever way it works. Yeah. The guys that are here and here, the guys who are in here at this stage of it, go and ask the press people. These are the people who the entire customer base are going to say, the shipper are going to say, aha. It's about moving to this, it's about realizing that we're at a power shift, of a shift towards the shipper. The shipper is a very brand-led guy because he is a brand. He understands branding. You don't understand branding because you're not in the business of building a brand. You're not Nike or Walmart. You're a service provider. But your customer is brand driven and will always be brand driven. And he's reassured by brands, right? You should realize that he is rapidly becoming your customer. Rapidly becoming your customer more and more so. And really, you should only want to achieve this standard. Right? By all means, if you're best in class, I'm talking about, the laggards will want to know about productivity. Right? The new port that's coming on stream in a third world country will really want this in terms of productivity. But best in class guys should really want this standard because it's going to influence your customer. It's going to get you more business. It's going to be a way that you can distinguish yourself in the marketplace. So when we talk to terminal operators across the world, and we ask them, after hypnotizing them, and when we get them to tell the complete truth, why do you want to come to the Hamburg committee and get involved in the standard? They say, because it'll get me more business from the customer. They don't say it's going to make me a more productive terminal. They realize that implicit in it, they're going to learn about productivity and share best practice. But what they're more interested in being is that they're more interested in being the first there with this. You listen to Ken Che, you listen to Mr. Fu, you listen to all the guys who run these places. They go, look, don't tell me about productivity, right? More or less what you said. Tell me what my customer wants. Tell me how my customer will say, no, I know you're going to tell me there's a new term. No, we are always going to work with this terminal because I believe that we know that you have to be productive. I said this at the beginning of the meeting. No matter how good your customer service is, it can't be any good if your productivity is poor, right? So I'm not suggesting that you can do one without the other, right? But you've got to see that all we're trying to do is give 100 points, right? And we're trying to weight it against the elements that really matter. Like Alan Al said in Hong Kong last week, he said, he said, all the KPIs in the world about productivity at the berths and all this kind of stuff, he said, if you knew that 95% of ships that came through that terminal left on their scheduled departure time, wouldn't that mean that all of that has already been achieved? So maybe this is the KPI that we should just look at. That 95% of ships that came to my terminal left at their scheduled departure time. Doesn't that mean that your key crane movements were good? You know what I'm trying to say, right? So what we're trying to adjudicate in this room is, we've got 100 points to give away. What are the KPIs we should measure, and which ones are we duplicating if we include them? Or that's all we're really trying to do, you know. So
I just want to basically, maybe these will help you point or make your point more complicated. Just to answer how, as a terminal operator, what is our expectation of getting involved in something like this? I think it has to be a dimension for us to at least get a process going of innovation that can allow us always to be on the early adopters of new ideas that have efficiency. So that standard itself, whether that is public or not, and whether that any terminal operator would like to share it with their competitor, obviously that's a question that most of us probably can answer in their heads. But that has to be there. It has to be something for the terminal operator in terms of their own. And that's where the KPIs come. So you have, yes, you have a diamond, you have different dimensions from the outside world, but internally also for the terminal operator, you have to develop something like that. Everybody will be interested if somebody else out there is doing something different, cost effectively, whether it's a new innovation, new processing, new technology, whatever.
Learning about it.
And that's the only way you can make the industry better. And that's how the industry had got to where it is today, for those early adopters, best-in-class terminal operators. So, and this makes your point more complicated, but I think don't neglect that piece there.
No, I think it all boils down to what I'm saying to you is, if the customer when he sees 5-star ends up thinking, but we're getting to a simple point between implicit and explicit. Explicitly, we need to understand that a plate is turned around in 4 minutes. That's explicit, right? So the restaurant goes, the auditors are coming from the World Institute of Hotels today. Okay, what are they auditing? They want to find out if we're still 5-star. Okay, cool. What are they doing in our kitchen? Well, actually, you know, they claim that unless you can prove to them that you have KPIs about how quickly you turn a plate around, they realize that further upstream, that's going to take from your efficiency and your promptness. By the way, when they publish the standard to people coming to this restaurant, they will not mention in the guidebook, average turnaround time for a plate in the restaurant at the Madison is 4 minutes. So in other words, explicitly, Grammatical Lloyd will want to know that you are a productive port. But the branding, it's implicit in that. So when I see this, it says, where I see this sign, 1, I know it's productive. Now if I want to, I can get the annex document that Bernard talks about and see exactly how they prove they're productive. But my headline is that they're productive. 2 is that they're customer-centric. 3 is that they're innovative. Now, basically, at the end of the day, if that's all it tells me, if that's all that happens, every time I see that sign, and I see it on your business card, Harry, I go, oh, okay, Harry, so you work for a really productive, customer-centric and innovative terminal. I see. And I've just been down to your competitor. He doesn't have this sign, because he couldn't get it last year. I don't know if he applied or not, but frankly, I understand that implicit in you having this, you must be productive. But explicitly, this is all I need to know. This is all it needs to represent to me. So it's really simple. So when you guys start becoming anoraks about it, when you start getting into the detail of it, then I know that's when that doesn't really get us anywhere. It's about staying above it, having a helicopter view, right? And then every time you get into the detail, frankly, at the end of the day, something is going to emerge. The International Association of Port and Harbours, you know, this was something that Santiago's committee is running and that you probably spoke about. So it's coming. We know it's coming, right? And at the end of the day, we're trying to take their ability to develop standards, your ability to understand how a terminal works. The Global Institute of Logistics is not really interested in any one piece of this. We're just trying to understand how we can take a helicopter view of it. It's how your customer sees it. So it's really a simple thing, you know. And I think the critical question that we need to talk to about today, I think I think we have enough expertise in the room to really finally work out which KPIs about productivity are going to be in. I think we have the brain power to do that. I think what's going to exercise you much more is if somebody says, what are the KPIs, what KPIs need to be audited to determine the quality of your connectivity? How do we measure your attitude? How do we measure your hinterland connect? How do we measure the way you do joined-up thinking? This is a real challenge, I think. You know, your website last year, if I can just get into it a little bit, and Voyager track, 18 million hits. 18 million hits. So NTC developed a technology on their website which says, log on, key in your container number, and we'll tell you when to come we'll tell you the status of the container. As soon as it's ready, we'll tell you it's ready. Don't bring a truck near this terminal until you get this email alert, right? Okay? So basically, 5 days before the ship arrives, the carriers send you the manifest, yeah, and they send you the stowage. So 5 days early they have visibility of the ship arriving. Now they're offering visibility to that information to the customer in the hinterland. So now they're getting this joined up thinking going, right? And then now they're saying this technology, right, allows you to only come to the terminal when we say the box is ready and we know what position it's in and it's ready to be collected. Upstream, downstream, right? Now, that's connectivity as far as I'm concerned, right? So, what I'm trying to understand, I know we have Gustav, I know you guys run terminals, I appreciate that, key crane movements, we can sort all that out, right? But how are we going to determine the quality? What KPIs would you suggest we could use what KPIs should we audit to determine the quality of your connectivity? Number of hits to your portal from the but like, what actually is it? Because at the end of the day, the productivity thing, I really think we can sort it out. But how do we make this, considering that the standard is not really, you know, Harry's right. I mean, don't come and teach your granny how to suck eggs. Right? Don't bring me into a room and say, hey, by the way, there's a new standard out, we're going to teach you KPIs about productivity. You go, well, thanks very much, because we've been doing this for 40 years. But if I came to you and said, these are the 5 KPIs that that Aldi will use to determine which terminal they want to push MOL towards next year. These are the 5 KPIs that Aldi want to be seen in the benchmark. They want to know how much. So I think at the end of the day, that, you know, even Stefan During in Hong Kong from Hamburg Sud, he said in the meeting, he said, hey, listen, we're a carrier. We know what a good terminal is. That's our job.
Oh, yeah.
This is not good side of us.
You know, like Stefan, you heard Stefan During. Stefan During said to us, look, don't tell shipping lines, here's a standard that you can use to adjudicate which terminal to go to. Hey guys, we are in the business of choosing terminals. We already know that, right? However, Kingfisher came in after him, $100,000, and they went, Stefan, if we ever get this benchmark, yeah, and you come to me, I'm going to say to you, Stefan, this year, would you make sure that we're on the ships that come through this terminal? So that's where we're really going with it. It's about really understanding your customer's customer and what they perceive from it. So that should be the real interest that you have in going into it, is that you can distinguish yourself from other terminals and you can win market share because the shipper is perceiving you as best in class.
Right, and so actually, you know, your point is, what are the KPIs? And actually, is it the terminal that defines that, or is it the BCO? Because your cargo owners are the guys who decide what visibility they want, what brings value to them.
Okay, can I answer that? If you lead it to the terminal, you get, say 100 terminals, you get 100 different definitions of all their KPIs. All different. If you doubt this, listen to this. Maryland Port Administration. They are loading the longshoremen at the port of Baltimore cargo faster the national averages, according to Maryland Port Administration. The MPA said Thursday an average of 40 containers per hour at Seagirt Marine Terminal during the first 2 months of 2007. And then how it comes. Like miles per hour, one measure of productivity at ports is how fast workers can load 20-foot boxes of cargo on ship. Now, what for nonsense is this? We first say 40 containers. Then we're going to say, no, it's 20-foot containers. In other words, we have measured in TEU. We have doubled actually our output because we were mostly handling 40-foot containers. And that is just one single example. I can give you hundreds. We have not a single standardized definition in all terminals. And that was one of the reasons that we insist on, if you want to start saying, is the terminal good, let's start by having some standardized definitions as well. Otherwise, what are we comparing? And of course, for the moment, everybody is happy within the terminal because I think that's where we make the difference. You can have, of course, your benchmarking internally, and whether you have measured it correctly or not doesn't matter because over time you have a time series. If you made a mistake in day 1, well, you're still making the same mistake in day 500, but at least it's comparable. Mm-hmm. The minute you start comparing terminals, it's no longer possible to do that. So we cannot get out of looking at what KPIs are necessary. But I fully agree that when we talk about the standard, it's different because the standard is the end result of all the performances that the terminal is achieving.
Correct.
Is it good or is it bad?
Yeah.
That's it.
Absolutely.
And it's not only the KPIs, it's everything. It is, are you doing training? I'm not going even to have a KPI for that.
Yeah.
I want to know what is your system. And what is the result when people have done training? And are they promoted? And how long does it take before they get promoted? And are in the right job? That is what we want to find out. And that is the part of the standard that, if you want, is quantitative, but extremely important. As important as qualitative. And quantitative, agree.
So Gustav, what you're saying is we should also focus on the fundamental within inside the terminal because there is no agreement on a language that we all speak and a glossary that we all can be used across the board.
That's right.
So that's the first thing we should actually come to, and then from there develop the rest.
And then see, what are our different stakeholders expecting? Right. And it is very different. I don't have to insist on that. Whether you are a railroad that is serving container terminals, or the truckers, or the shippers, or the shipping lines, or the port authority for that matter. Because each of them wants something different. Now, we prepared, and I'm not sure that it was distributed, but just a few examples. I'm not saying that this is what we will in the end have, but some examples of measures of service quality. One that we prepared that could be used by the ship operator, one that we prepared for the truckers, and one for the railroads. And we also put in long-term performance of ship-to-shore handling equipment. Now, these three may say, I'm not interested in that, but the terminal itself needs to know. And we cannot, this is a basic one. This is a basic one. And also on a 24-hour basis, you can have this worked out. But this is basic because all the rest is built on this. At least with respect to the ship operation and to what the shipping line requires. With respect to the cargo owner, he wants to know whether his 3PL or his forwarding agent, when he sends a truck, how long that truck is going to wait, whether he's going to have to pay demurrage on the truck. And that's why I think service quality at the gate needs to be measured, but in very simple ways.
Can I ask a question? I think that seems to be similar to what Kirian said about 20-60-20.
Yes.
Is that?
Well, that is the next step because you would then
translate.
you would weigh these
My
values.
question is, you started with a
But
but
that's,
by reading,
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
there you go.
by reading from the Maryland Port Authority, my impression was that was a but to what Kieran said, and I can only hear confirmation in what you're saying. The only but I can hear is that, is this the wrong group of persons because these are all terminal operators, and that's why you're saying this is the wrong group of people to ask? Was that your argument?
No, the argument here was that here's a port authority that doesn't seem even to know the difference between moves and PEUs.
Yes, sorry.
Or at least, this is what we have to deduce from this
Yes,
article.
okay.
But it also shows you something else. This information is used for different purposes.
Yes.
And the purpose here is public relations.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah?
that
And it
is-
is not, to say this is the degree of satisfaction that our customers are getting.
Then I understand what
And this mix of the two, has been, in a big way confusing everybody.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah? And in a sense, everybody is now throwing around. You go to any terminal operators conference, and everybody is throwing around figures that don't make any sense anymore.
Yes.
Because you don't know, what it refers to.
Yes, I do.
And at least, you're okay. And I think here, the people that are in the know, when somebody from Terminal X is giving these figures, they will take it seriously because they, this is a good operator. This is a good terminal. How does that happen that we know it's a good terminal? Because they're not just looking at its productivity, but also in the way it's organized. The sort of equipment, how new is the equipment that they're using? How quickly are they adapting to new technologies? That is what the people in the know do.
True
But
pride.
then there are all those others that are not in the know and that are involved because they are stakeholders somewhere along the line. And they don't know.
Mr. Kohler, you were...
Yeah, in our discussion, I'm still missing one aspect. We had it in the beginning a little bit, but it's not come up further on the table. And that is, as we are part only in the supply chain, we are depending on a lot of preparation which needs to be delivered to us by third parties.
Yeah.
Two examples only. One on the water side. When I have a good, modern, well-equipped and well-maintained ship, I can deliver good productivity. If I have a substandard vessel with a lot of broken lashing equipment, I can do what I want. I have no chance. So that is example on the water side. Example on the land side. When my customers, my primary customers, the shipping lines, don't tell me anything about the boxes I discharge. They just tell me, please discharge. And I put them all in my stack. And then someday somebody comes up and says, I want these two. And it's at the bottom. So I have no chance of doing anything. And these two aspects who determine our productivity, our performance, our KPIs, our quality, they are not on the table in our discussion, and they are not under our control. And we must find ways to describe them and to benchmark them also. But that's benchmarking the terminus, it's benchmarking the world around us, and that's extremely difficult, but it's very, very important because it has a very big influence on what we do and how we do it.
That's why we made that proposal for how to build up such a standard. So, up to now we had a discussion which was a little bit, do we need a standard at all? So now we came to a point where I feel that there's some kind of agreement that, okay, let's think about having a standard and how should it look like. And in principle we have what Bernard explained in this little presentation was we have two ways of potentially measuring the quality of a standard. One is to have these KPIs, these key performance indicators, based on statistics analysis, like moves per hour or whatsoever, turnaround time. So something which comes, which are numbers which are derived from the performance of the terminal. So that's all these statistical numbers. And then we can have on the other side, let's say the more indirect questions with these master tables, where you ask, for example, do you have let's say a truck planning system? Yeah, because you can say as a terminal, I'm in a situation where I have to rely that the trucks don't take up the last box, or we have to the bottom box, or we have to rely on that we get the information from the shipping line. But on the other hand, you also have tools, or you could have tools, how to bring your customer into the situation to give you that information, like as far as I understood you do in your terminals, so that you invented a system where you inform the truckers when the containers are ready to be picked up. Or on the other hand, you could also establish something where, for example, you have a system where the trucks say in advance, I want to come and I want to pick up that truck at, I don't know, at an exact time, and you are able to prepare the container for delivery at that time. So, and these things, you cannot measure these things in statistics, but you can ask for it. Do you have something like that? And then you get points for it.
Okay, for having
so that's something I would like to see as a discussion. What you would prefer? How is it possible to combine these two? Maybe the statistical values and the, let's say, more organizational issues. And
Can we go to the next one, because I would like to respond to this remark, and I think
Just go ahead.
Because it is obviously true, you know, and I've been the first one to say, I think, maybe not the first one, but this morning, the first thing I said was what is not realized by all the people that are in the chain, how their own actions impede on the total performance of the chain. And for example, shipping lines that give you lousy storage plans, or that bring in old vessels, or that bring in, you know, vessels when they were not expected to arrive. Well, this is, you know, what you're facing with every day. That's why I think this particular one is a measure of service quality to the ship operator. This is what I would think, you know, is the key to deal with that sort of problem. What we are doing is by ship call, given that we know, or we should know, our operator, whether he's good or bad, we set a target. Now that target we may replace it by an expected time of departure. That is another element, there's another way of doing it. But I think that will not take into account your comments, because the expected time of departure doesn't take into account, you know, a poor operator. He sets the time of departure, and you have to try, you know, and meet it. But what you can do is, based on what you already know about past performance of the ships, or what you have agreed in your contracts, to set, you know, the minimum contractual performance. And this would be based on a certain time that you're allowed to spend in port. And then you will have also, you will be taking into account the number of moves. Because this value here, this is the critical one. This is what you think your productivity can be on a per ship hour basis. Per ship hour basis. That takes care of the number of cranes, and that takes care of the performance of the crane per unit. And then you will multiply this by, say, 450, and you have here a total of 14.9 hours that you actually should be able to operate a vessel. You then record the actual turnaround time, and that here in this case is below what you were allowed, and it's a good, it's a yes. Now the beauty of this, you do that per vessel. You can decide on these values. And if need be, you discuss with your client, shipping line, and you say, can we, you know, look at this. The sort of problems we had with your vessels in the past month. Can you do something about it? If you can do something about it, we can improve on this value here. we can lower this value. Because the lower this value, the faster the productivity that we take into account. And then the beauty of this is that you may have 1,000 chips in a month,